everyone. Welcome to HOA Fight Club. I'm going to chat about part 6 of my story now. I think that's what I'm on. I'll double check that. So let's start with the neighbor. So when I first moved into my condo association, the place next door had just been foreclosed on. Now, at that time, I didn't know that the association was the one foreclosing. I thought it was the mortgage that these people hadn't paid. And, the board president and this is funny, the board president and I actually were pretty good friends. And when I was getting my place fixed up, she was always there helping. And she would sit at the pool with my girlfriend and I, and really, was just there. And, come to find out, of course, she was just monitoring who I was and what I was doing. But, anyways, we had a relationship, and actually a very good relationship until the first fine started. But in the meantime of all this and the recalls and all that, there was a person that bought next door to me. And, this is probably about a year and a few months after we bought our home. So it was a long time. We enjoyed putting our deck in and having family come and having a great time and using our backyard and just really, really enjoying it that first summer. So as this neighbor moves in, we are more than help. I'm like the nicest person in the world that will really help all my neighbors met. And so I was helping him, get stuff done. He was doing a lot of construction. He owned a construction company, a contracting company. And so he was very busy and needed help and was asking questions and that. And, I had been dealing with some stuff. So I kind of filled him in and everything. In the long run, this gentleman, he hops on the board, of course, he's a contractor, so they want all of his expert opinions, which is the reason why the housing area, I think, and that is not being improved because of his professional opinion, really put us at jeopardy, for not redoing the roofs and not redoing the gutters and having the flooding. So anyways, so he jumped on the board. Well, he started causing a lot of problems and, started doing what the board was doing and participating in what they were doing to us. So the night of the recall, well, let's go back. I had him removed from the board. So to be on our board, you had to be a member of the association, which included you had to be on the title, which, now I'm starting to learn everything. So I started checking, well, it wasn't just me. I had neighbors that started checking titles. Well, come to find out, this gentleman wasn't on the title. So he couldn't even serve on the board. Now the board was giving him all of our information, all of our personal information. He was dealing with our fines and all this kind of stuff. So he was getting his opinion in there. And so he got really, really upset with us, especially after I had him removed from the board. And, it was just kind of a conflict all this time. Now, the night of the recall, this is what happened with this neighbor. So we did the recall, everything's done, we go home. Well, the board actually had a meeting after the recall, and this neighbor went in and made the false accusation that we were smoking in our backyard at 4:30 in the morning on April 23rd, I think it was 2016 at the time. So he was, he made that complaint, that happened. His words were directly, this is what happened, it was Steve Schifano and his daughter and blah, blah, blah. So that night of the recall, they decided to fine us again for the smoking violation in our backyard. And this is the fine that they didn't let go. I mean, they kept it going. And I could prove that they actually wrote the date of the board meeting and that on the paper of the fine that they gave us. So it was very blatant that they were doing this on purpose as retaliation for holding a recall of the board. So, now I'm starting to deal with this wrath of these attorneys, and, they were denying due process. They wouldn't even let me have a hearing. They wouldn't let me have anything. So, I really had to deal with a lot of I had to spend $15,000 on an attorney to fight a fine that I knew wasn't true. I had evidence that wasn't true. And this homeowner was not, he made false accusations that cost the association. They ended up paying the $28,000 in attorney fees that year. So he ended up costing the association so much money, and it led to the association hurting in so many ways. Not only did they have to pay the attorney fees, but now they're paying, they had to pay for my settlement out of their fees and that, because the insurance company would only cover the property damage that they had actually done and ignored. And their unethicalness, they ended up taking that out of the homeowners. So, I just think that people need to be aware of what's going on. Having all the evidence when you are fined is really important, because this gentleman had no evidence that we were there. In fact, we had, of course, King 5 News did a whole news story. And you can see that if you Google my name, you can see my King 5 News story that I did when I was, in 2016. Danielle Lee did a great story on HOAs. And this is where I met some really good friends. Joe, my buddy in crime, he was there to help me this whole time. He taught me a lot of the legislation. And so he has passed away now, but I think he's up there fighting for us, still with me. And so Joe Mendoza, I think of him all the time. And, this is kind of therapy for me, because I haven't, I wasn't there when he passed away, and COVID and all of this stuff. So, it's just been kind of a rough ride. But, when a neighbor can cause so much damage in an association and not be held responsible, that, in my opinion, is what's wrong with the laws in all the states. Everybody should be doing what's best for the association. And the big picture, like the attorney should be identifying, hey, that's not good. This is going to cost money. The property manager should be doing that. But they want conflict. They need conflict to make money. So the property manager gets paid mitigation fees, and the property or the attorney can charge whatever fees they want and charge them to the homeowners. And it's just so unfair. And it's a very unbalanced, unjust, unethical way of life that they've really sold the homeowners into a slavery. I don't want to even know that, because we're not slaves, but we have no freedom. We have no freedom of choice, except for not to buy into those associations in the first place. That is your choice. Your choice is to say no, thank you. And I think that, there's so many places that you can't find a place to live that's decent if you don't have an association. So, we want to make sure that we have our, constitutional rights and our freedoms and things like that. But taking people's homes in 90 days for a lien for $50 because they painted the house the wrong color, or they were smoking in their backyard with no evidence or due process, is really, really an unethical way of thinking. And if attorneys really think that that's okay, in my opinion, they're unethical, because every attorney should want to do what's best for the association. And that's keeping everybody in their homes, paying their bills, doing what they're supposed to do, not causing conflict, not finding them into foreclosure, not being unfair, and not ignoring the process of the CC&Rs that are so important. They are so important. If your board finds you, they have to give out so many warnings. They have to do, the first fine, the second fine, the third. It has to be a process spelled out in your CC&Rs. And if it's not, ask for it, because you want to know, and you want to make sure that you demand your rights always. And don't let that neighbor get on the board by doing what they're not supposed to do. I found a couple other people that jumped on that board that weren't members of the association also. So know who's on the title, know what your CC&Rs say. How do you be a member? How do you vote? Some people might be serving on your board and they don't even have the right to serve on your board. So you need to check those declaration and bylaws, and make sure that you always send notification to everybody by certified mail, with that certified letter number written on the bottom of every page, so that you can prove what you sent with that mail. All right, you guys, I'll see you on the next one.